In this session, we are going to look at a very important topic called simplifications, which comes under the quantitative aptitude section of various bank exams. This topic is all about doing various arithmetic operations to get the required answer, right? Simply numbers with various arithmetic operations like additions, subtractions, multiplications and divisions is given. We are required to solve it in a step-by-step process and we should get the required answer. Before we start solving questions from this topic of simplifications, let us first understand the basic rule that we need to follow. And this is the order of operations. You know that in simplifications, we have to perform various arithmetic operations like additions, divisions, subtractions and multiplications. And when you solve a question based on simplification, there is a hierarchy that we need to follow, right? Which operation has to be done first, right? So let's understand the order of these operations that we need to stick to while solving questions from simplifications. Well, I'm sure all of you are aware of this order of operations as we have learned this in our school days, right? This is known as BODMAS, the rule of BODMAS, right? So let's understand what is this rule and how does it help us in solving questions from simplifications. Well, this is also known as PEDMAS or PIDMAS in various other parts of the world, but we in India call it as BODMAS rule. Now here, each letter stands for a word, and this will give you the hierarchy of operations that we need to follow. For example, B here stands for brackets. O stands for order of and exponential operations. D stands for division. M stands for multiplication. A stands for addition. And the last one here, S, stands for subtraction. So this is the order that we need to follow while solving a question from simplifications, right? The first one here is brackets. So this means that in a given question, if you find any part of the question within the brackets, that has to be simplified first, right? Brackets, or it is also known as parentheses, right? So the first step here is to simplify the bracketed part. Then once it is done, we move on to the operations of order of, or these are nothing but the exponential operations, right? For example, sometimes we see 3 by 8 of, 4 by 5 of 16. So what does that of mean here? Of is nothing but multiplication, right? So we need to first simplify that of part. Or operations related to orders. Orders are nothing but powers. For example, in a given simplification question, we may have 3 squared. So that 3 squared has to be simplified first. We should take it as 9 before we proceed to the next step. Likewise, it may have something in square root of 3136. So before we look at the various steps of division, multiplication and so on, we first need to simplify the square root of 3136, right? So all these other operations comes under O, right? Exponential operations or indices, order, etc. Then once that is done, we move on to the basic arithmetic operations, divisions, multiplications, additions and subtractions. And in this, the first priority, the highest priority is given to division. Always remember, you need to simplify division first. Then we go for multiplication, followed by additions and subtractions. So this is the order that you need to stick to while solving questions from simplifications, right? I would like to repeat it once again. This is known as the BODMAS rule, right? Brackets, of, order, exponents, all those operations, then division, multiplication, addition and subtraction. If we do not follow this order, then we may get a wrong answer, right? So make sure that we stick to this while solving any question from simplification. So this is one of the basic rules of mathematics that we need to apply while answering any question from simplification. And I would say not only simplifications, you take up any topic from quantitative aptitude. For example, let's say there is a question on time and work, which involves some numerical calculation to be done. Even in that case, when you're simplifying that part, the simplification part, you need to follow this order, right? The BODMAS rule. Right? So this is not only useful in the topic of simplification alone, but in all the other topics of quantitative aptitude as well. And not only in mathematics. This is the rule which is followed in science, physics, technology, programming languages, everywhere. This is what is followed when we go for simplifications, right? So this is one of the fundamentals which I'm sure all of you are already aware of, but let's quickly get an idea on this. Like we have already understood what is BODMAS, what does it stand for, and while solving questions from the workbook, we'll look at how do we apply this. So let's get started with the session on simplifications. I'll try to take up as many questions as possible in this session. Apart from the rule of BODMAS, there are various smart ways which can be applied for solving questions on simplifications. For example, there's one method called as units digit method, which is very, very useful in answering many questions from simplifications. Likewise, there is a concept of digital root digit, right? Even that will be useful while answering questions from simplifications. We will not have to simplify the complete question there, right? Just by applying a smart technique, we'll be able to find out the correct answer option. But we'll look at these techniques and methods while solving the questions itself, right? So let's get started with this topic on simplifications.